right now, for one night only, we have moved into our late general election HQ for the next part of the show. As we all know, the country went to the polls today with people dropping into schools, to church halls and community centres to fill out their ballots for this year's general election. I am delighted to say I am joined by three people who are going to be getting a little bit busier over the next few days. This, for them, is officially the calm before the storm. I am joined by Upfront's Katie Hannon, 6-1's David McCullagh, and from the Irish Times, Jennifer Bray is also here. In a moment, they are going to take us through the results of the RTE, Irish Times, TG Ceathair and Trinity College Dublin exit poll carried out by Ipsos B&A. This exit poll was carried out today as voters were leaving polling stations across the country. In-person interviews were conducted at 253 locations across every constituency in the country, with 5,018 people questioned. There is a margin of error in this exit poll of 1.4%. OK, so, Katie, politicians at the moment will be on their edge of their seats. What have we got?
So there we are. So this is the answer to the question, which was, please complete this ballot paper exactly as you did when voting, indicating your first preference. And that is the result there of that question. So,
take us through this, Katie.
This is, well, it turns out the polls that we were hearing throughout this election were fairly accurate. The three main parties, Fianna Fáil, Sinn Féin and Fine Gael, pretty much neck and neck by this exit poll. I think Fine Gael will be relieved to see themselves coming in at 21%. I think actually of the three big parties, if you compare that result with the outcome of the 2020 election, Fine Gael are the only one that have increased their vote ever so marginally. The main thing you're looking at there is how will this, what kind of a Dáil will we see, or what kind of a government could we see out of this? And you'd have to say you could see the same government that left the Dáil coming back into the Dáil with maybe a little bit of extra help.
Wow, OK. What do you think, David?
I think we have to bear in mind this is an exit poll. There is a margin of error, 1.4%, as Casey says. And if you look back at the last exit poll carried out by the same company for the same clients, it was very accurate for most parties. It was within 1 percentage point for most of them. It was a little bit more out for Fine Gael. It overstated Fine Gael's support by 1.1 percentage points. It understated Sinn Féin's support by 2.5 percentage points. So I think Sinn Féin HQ will be hoping that the same thing has happened again. But I think it does give you a very strong picture, as the opinion polls during the campaign have done, that the three, we can't call them the three big parties anymore, the three larger parties, medium-sized parties, are in or around the same percentages. And then when you look at the smaller parties, the Green Party at 4 points, that's almost half what they got in the last general election. So they will be worried tonight. Labour on 5, a little bit above what they got in the general election, but actually exactly the same as they got in the last exit poll. Soc Dems will be very happy with that. They're up substantially. They're ahead of Labour, and if they hold on to that, they'll be very happy. People Before Profit Solidarity on 3.1, pretty much where they were the last time. Aim 2, Peadar Tobin, 3.6.
Very, very pleased with that.
Very happy. And I think it was noticeable during the debates on Upfront and elsewhere that Peadar Tobin was very effective at getting his message across.
It is an exit poll, Jennifer. There is a margin of error. We were talking about the big three all being in and around that 20 figure. If you're Simon Harris or Micheál Martin tonight, who's going to be happier there?
I mean, I think if you look at those statistics, obviously it would be Simon Harris, I think, who will be happier on the basis of that. You know, we've had a lot of polls throughout this election, and this is the one that we're all watching so closely for, because it gives us our clearest indicator yet about how the public will vote. And you have to think, looking at those figures, it is still effectively a deadlock. pretty similar to the last time. It is still a deadlock. I think it's fascinating that none of the big parties have managed to move the dial enough since 2020 to convince people to even get anywhere near a majority. And looking at those figures now, if you look at Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil, you'd have to think that the most likely coalition, if they bear out, which, you know, and David went through the accuracy, that it will be Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael. Looking at Labour and SocDem's a little bit ahead, they'll be happy with that. I think that Fine Gael have a preference for Labour. I think they've made that quite clear in the campaign.
As have Fianna Fáil.
As have Fianna Fáil, and the Social Democrats have said they drive a hard bargain. It's interesting as well to look at the independents at 12.7. I think in the campaign, you could see in polling they were kind of coming down somewhat. So yeah, that's kind of the way it's shaping up, I think.
And Independent Ireland on 2.2, I think they'd be quite disappointed with that.
I think they will, yeah.
They had hoped that the brand would lift more people. I think they're looking at that, it would suggest to me that the people that were going to win seats anyway, even if they weren't in Independent Ireland, will probably win seats.
As independents previous. I'm just looking at just a quick thought there. The three government parties between them came in at just over 50%, 50.2% in 2020. That's what they came home with. Those three parties, according to this poll tonight, would come in with 44.5%. So they probably might need some more help, even if they decided to go with, you know, if the Greens were part of that mix again.
You might need four parties.
You might need four parties,
and
exactly.
both Micheál Martin and Simon Harris were saying during the campaign, that wouldn't be very good.
Well, because it's a question of stability, isn't it? The more parties you have, the more unstable a prospect you're looking at. It's harder to keep the camp together when you have more parties, quite frankly.
Let's talk about Sinn Féin. Let's talk about Mary Lou. Mary Lou this week thought that there was a bit of Sinn Féin momentum. What do we think of that?
Certainly, I was talking to senior Sinn Féin people earlier on this week, and they were insisting to me that at that point they were already at the 2020 figure, which was almost 25% and rising. So they're a long way off that. I mean, this is basically the opposition losing the election, you know, and it's not very often you see government parties coming back with more seats or potentially more seats or just about the same seats as I think it's only happened a couple of times in the last...
Would you agree with that, Tim?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's interesting about this, if this does bear out tomorrow, and we have a lot of votes to count before we can see how accurate...
And it'll be all down to transfers.
OK, you win. You said it first. I think what's disappointing for Sinn Féin is not necessarily the comparison with the last general election. It's the comparison with how high they were rising in the opinion polls midway through the term of this government. They were hitting 30% regularly. They hit 36%, I think.
They hit 36 at their peak, I think. And, you know, it's been a difficult year for Sinn Féin. I think that you can look at it two ways for Sinn Féin. They could be very happy if they compare it to the local election result when they took less than 12% of the national vote. They talked in the last couple of days about feeling a momentum on the ground. I did question that and wonder, is that, you know, trying to make momentum happen or momentum actually happening? I think it could have been a lot worse for Sinn Féin given the difficult couple of months they had.
And it could have been a lot worse for Fine Gael as well, given the shambles of a campaign they've run. Some people would say.
Some people would say. If you're looking at these figures tonight, who do we think is in the driving seat?
Well, it's difficult to say. Like, if those figures come through and deliver a proportionate number of seats, Micheál Martin and Simon Harris are in the driving seat to be back in government, but only with each other. They need each other, so therefore I'm not sure that one of them has the whip hand over the other.
Certainly if they come in that close and the seats reflect that.
Oh, rotation once again.
It'll be rotation once again, exactly, yeah.
And on those figures, I can't see a route to government for Sinn Féin.
No.
It would have to be literally everybody else
party, yeah.
in the Dáil.
Which is not impossible, has happened before, but it's very, very difficult to see it. So I think that probably is... and can they go back to the electorate in another general election, say, we're the change guys, we're the change party? OK,
well, look, it is an exit poll. There is a margin of error. Katie, what can we expect tomorrow?
Tomorrow we are kicking off our coverage at 9 a.m. We're going to have a lot more data. We asked a lot of questions in this exit poll and we're going to be digging into that from 9 a.m. tomorrow. And then, of course, as we get through the day, the declarations will start coming in from the count centres. We've people in count centres all around the country, all 43 of them, and we'll be on air until 2 a.m. at least. We're also going to be putting a podcast out tonight.
Oh, wouldn't miss it. We'd probably be making fun of you.
Behind the Ballot, indeed. And there's also, as we know, our colleagues, Fran is over on RT2 right now with more on this exit poll tonight.
OK, I look forward to the exit poll.
Mungan is on radio.
I look forward to Dave and the podcast. And I wish you all a a busy weekend sorting all this out. We're going to leave it there. Thank you so much to Katie. Thanks to David. Thanks to Jennifer. A long weekend ahead for all of you. Just a reminder, folks, that was an exit poll. It is not to be confused with the actual result.